Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a really exciting topic that we were very eager to get going and share with you. It's about an innovation that we've been working on for quite some time, enabling user-centric identity through IBM Security Verify. Today I'm joined by the lead engineer on the on the space, Dave. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name's David Moore. I'm one of the developers on the IBM Security Verify product suite, and most recently have been focused on pulling together some capability around decentralized identity or verifiable credentials.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, and my name is Nolan. I'm on the product management team for IBM Security Verify. And today we're going to go through a pretty straightforward agenda. We're going to set the context of the business problem, the set of use cases. We're going to talk about how we're delivering that in the context of IBM Security Verify and how that's going to be experienced. And then Dave's actually going to be doing a live demo. The output of this is going to be seeing if there's anyone out there that is interested in using our private preview for verifiable credentials and decentralized identity. And then, of course, working with us as we iterate through the delivery of this capability to eventually go GA. We'll also talk about some of the new things that we're going to be planning to address in the context of these use cases, as we start building these capabilities out additionally. So with that, let's get started. So to set the context here, I really like to frame the question here is like, how do you prove that you are you, and what is identity, right? So when we think about how identity is really manifesting and sort of bridging together in the context of real world and on the internet, we have two modes of operating. Now, when we really think about the opportunity that verifiable credentials and decentralized identity can offer, it really allows us to emulate what we've been doing in the real world, in the digital world. Now, there are specific use cases that require us to do how we do things in the digital world today. For example, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and so on. But really what we're trying to do and what we're seeing an opportunity is modernizing and extending and enhancing some of the experiences that we've typically seen become a shortcoming in realizing how we've done identity in the real world and bringing that into the internet and online experiences. So when we think about that, there's a few things that come to play. It's about how we establish trust, peer-to-peer interactions, as well as the digitization of physical paper, plastic, PDF type of credentials. Okay, so when we think about and put the framing of how do we prove you are who you are and what is identity in that context, I wanted to sort of share more of an analyst view on this, right? So when we think about an analyst definition here, this is coming from Gartner in the digital hype cycle for digital identity in 2023. They talk about this in the context of allowing an entity to control their digital identity, to connect and authenticate themselves with other entities, right? And there's mechanisms and details behind that, which we'll get into. And it's contained in digital wallets, supported by an identity trust fabric, right? To make decentralized identifiers discoverable, right? This is enabling trust, privacy, and security, right? Through the storage and sharing of verifying identity data, right? So again, more of an analyst definition here, but as we go through this, we're starting to see how this is becoming and has the opportunity to become a transformative technology, as well as a transformative approach in how interactions are done that previously haven't been able to be done in an online or a digital format. So when we talk about verifiable credentials and decentralized identity, we see three primary use case drivers in terms of enabling and enhancing experiences. The first is what we're actually rooting a lot of our initial development and delivery on is modernizing existing paper plastic processes to be digital. So this could be driver's licenses, this could be government issued cards, this could be badges, this could be membership or loyalty cards. I'm a Seinfeld fan, and one of the things that comes to mind when we think about this in the context of simplifying the user experience is anything that is a credential, a paper plastic, a PDF is really something that you contain as a form of an identity that contains specific data based on the relationship. So this is really what we're looking to help address and help enhance as new use cases as things become digital first, as part of a digital worker or a digital consumer type of experience. Now, what I'll say here is we're starting with that, but when we think about the opportunity, any credential, any loyalty card, any way that someone types in a credential, username, and password has the opportunity to be a verifiable credential. But again, it's all based on the use case and the business need. The second driver here is putting the user at the center of interactions. When we talk about this, it's really flipping the model of the relationship between identity providers or issuers and verifiers or relying parties or service providers. And we're really putting the user at the center, where the user is able to permission which set of attributes as part of a interaction with an entity are permitted to be shared, but also allowing them to individuals to share that data at a very granular and a selective manner. So we're really decoupling the notion between the relationships of issuers and verifiers in the traditional way that identity is exchanged today. The third thing is around credential portability. So where we're seeing valuable and differentiated use for verifiable credentials and decentralized identity is the ability to port and use that credential with other entities through use cases such as KYC, know your customer, or account creation. And this is part of the demo that you'll be seeing is how some of these new use cases get unlocked in that manner. So the question now becomes, why now for us? Well, there's a few drivers beyond just the trajectory where the market's going in the context of the new experiences that can be unlocked for businesses and business models. But from a core standpoint, what we're really driven by is our customers, right? And our customers are starting to explore this and are starting to provide us with use cases that they eventually want to deliver and go to production with. And we've started working with a few customers in this space, which is why we're driving forward with this work in the context of delivering this as part of our overall IBM security strategy. So when we talk about what our customers asking us, it's similar to what I've been saying earlier. They want to modernize physical identity experiences. They want to bring digital and physical identity together. So you can think about this in the context of government, in healthcare, which is really where you see that anchor point for organizations that really want to start on this journey. They also want to expand how they do IAM today so they can put the individual at the center, right? They're really focused on privacy. They're really focused on only requiring the information that is needed and minimizing information collection, which leads me to the next point, streamlining onboarding of new identities and minimizing information collected, which then really comes into the notion of how do you transform an entire KYC or know your customer process. The other thing that's driving this is regulatory requirements in the public sector. So there's two of note, and this is from the Australian government as well as in Europe with EIDAS. And it's no surprise that those two regions of the world are actually driving this and leading this, right? So if you think of other things like even open banking or financial grade APIs, those are the regions that actually led a lot of that work in terms of pushing the market to be more open, pushing the market into enabling these new types of use cases with secure and privacy by design as the default. And this is really where these public sector organizations are really pushing the agenda, as well as the motivation to adopt digital identity in the manner that we've been talking about. So why now for us in terms of IBM Security? Well, it's because of what customers are telling us, what the market is telling us, as well as what regulatory requirements are shaping up to be, and what customers will be required and organizations will be required to do to enable those digital experiences in a secure, user-centric way. So with that, how are we bringing this in the context of what we deliver in market? So today, IBM Security Verify's mission is to help securely connect any identity to any resource. We work through delivering identity and access management for workforce identity and consumer identity, right? And at the core of what we do is enabling things around single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, risk-based authentication, lifecycle management. We have full visibility and reporting. We have a privacy and consent management engine. We can orchestrate different user journeys and experiences, and we identify threats. Now, what we're enhancing here through this native platform and product is we're expanding how we enable decentralized identity and verifiable credentials in the context of IBM Security Verify, right? So now decentralized identity and verifiable credentials becomes a capability that can be consumed as part of the overall IAM practice, IAM delivery that can be realized when using IBM Security Verify. Of course, the entire platform is standards-based. So when we talk about DIDs, it's W3C DIDs specification, W3C verifiable credential specification, and we'll get to more of the details there, right? So now we're talking about the context of how it's realized within IBM Security Verify. So let's talk about a little bit of what is the decentralized identity stack, right, that we're putting together. So we are a private preview, so I'll get into this later, but what this entails is we're working with a few select customers, right, that have qualified use cases, that have intention, that have goals to get to production, that are running, pilots and have a stage plan of then onboarding their user populations, whether it's citizens or workforce identities, to then deliver the credential exchange that is provided through verifiable credentials and decentralized identity. But fundamentally, what is our stack? So our stack is first the wallets and the credential managers offered by IBM Security Verify, right? So these are what we call agents. You can consider this as infrastructure that IBM Security Verify allows you to manage, deploy, as well as define the roles into an entire credential exchange. So these agents allow for issuing, holding, and verifying digital credentials in a standards-based way. And then the credential managers allow you to interface with that. Credential managers being, for example, wallets, right, and mobile apps. So we provide that as a native experience in the context of IBM Security Verify. The next thing we offer is SDKs to simplify, to build and refactor applications so you can allow for the common set of use cases of issuance, verification of digital credentials, right? So we offer that as part of our private preview. And then the last thing that really builds the entire decentralized identity stack in terms of what we are in current state with our private preview is a trust registry. Now, this trust registry is basically a distributed root of trust that allows for publishing metadata like decentralized identifiers, schemas. There's no PII that goes onto the trust registry, but this allows for the credential exchange. And what we've started out with is using Indicio as the trust registry that underpins our credential exchange capabilities as part of our private preview. So with that, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to hand it over to Dave, and Dave's actually going to take us through the demo use case and then actually take us through the demo.
All right. Thanks, Millen. Trust you, everyone can hear me. So as Millen was introducing there, he mentioned that one of the key use cases, or a good fit use case for verifiable credentials, is in onboarding scenarios, KYC type scenarios, and we've got a demonstration that fits that type of model. But before we dive into the actual running of it, I just wanted to take you through a bit about how some of the components are hanging together. So if you can see the diagram there, we've got essentially the scenario will be that Jessica is our citizen or our credential holder with a wallet, and she wants to open a bank account with the Big Blue Credit Union. But the Big Blue Credit Union has modernised, and they will do an onboarding, or capable of doing an onboarding process whereby they can accept two forms of verifiable credentials as satisfying their processes of onboarding. And one of those will be a proof of employment, which will include things like salary information, and then a government-issued driver's license to establish a highly trusted issued identity. Now, for each of these scenarios to work, or for each of these components to work, the parties in this ecosystem have particular roles. So Jessica is going to be our wallet holder, and she's going to be issued credentials. And she's also going to have to provide credentials as proofs to the Big Blue Credit Union. The government-issued driver's license, the DMV, they're going to be an issuer in this scenario, and so they have and each of the entities have an agent that they're paired with. An agent is essentially like a service endpoint that allows for communication and connections to be established between the parties that wish to participate. So the DMV has an agent in their tenant within ISV, and as an issuer, they publish their public DID documents that include public key information into the trust registry. The employer, the HR department, also has an ISV tenant in this case, and they have an agent. They've instantiated an agent in their tenant and have done the same thing in terms of publishing their public key DID information. The Big Blue Credit Union is actually going to be an issuer and a verifier, and then in their role as an issuer, they are going to also have published their DID into the registry. Now, when credential exchanges occur, what actually happens behind the scenes is that the credentials are transferred between each party using the DIDCOM message protocol. So that's a little bit about how ISV exposes this technology and how each of the parties in the ecosystem can leverage an agent in ISV to enable some of these flows to work. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be that every agent and every party has to have an ISV based agent, but they do have to be at this point capable of doing a DIDCOM exchange. So with that, I will try and share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen there, Millen?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so just to put a little more context and meat on the bone. So here I've logged into my ISV tenant as an admin. Now for this scenario, I've got all of the parties' agents within the one tenant. However, that's not a requirement, it's just makes the demonstration a little easier to deal with. So we have an agent for the Big Blue Credit Union, an agent for the HR department, an agent for the DMV, and we also have an agent for Jessica, who is our wallet holder in this scenario. So if we just take a bit of a look at one of them, for example, so we have a look at the Big Blue Credit Union, some information that they have. So they have an agent name, their DID value, which is actually published to the ledger, and some DIDCOM messaging endpoints. And when the actual website of let's say in this case the Big Blue Credit Union wants to initiate and kick off an exchange of credentials, they'll do that by actually authenticating to an ISV API using an access token, an OAuth access token. Also, with the agent, and particularly when they're issuers, we can have them associated with one or more credential schemas. And in this case here, we've got that the Big Blue Credit Union is going to be an issuer of the Big Blue Credit Union account credential type, which happens to be an Indy, a non-cred credential. We also have an ability to edit schemas, credential schemas in the ecosystem. So we can see that we've got the Big Blue Credit Union account credential schema here, the DMV license credential schema, and the HR employment credential schema is also present here. There's a mix of, in this particular case, this is one of the tenants I use for testing. There's a mix of credential types, so Indy non-creds as well as JSON LD credential schema types are supported at the moment. So that's a little bit about how ISV is exposing some of this. From here, we can start to step into what the demo looks like. So I'll start off for the moment where we've got on my left-hand side, I've got my mobile phone with my credential wallet, and that's an application, a mobile application. And I've actually configured this already as Jessica to connect to her agent within ISV. But there are no credentials in my wallet at the moment, and there are no connections with any issuers or verifiers at the moment. So then I've got the three entity websites. So this is this website here will represent the DMV issuer of driver's license. I have my employer HR portal, and the goal of the scenario will be that I want to onboard as a customer and open an account with the Big Blue Credit Union. And I want to do that with verifiable credentials and using my mobile wallet. But to do that, as this dialog here is telling me, I need to be able to present the following proof that includes a driver's license and a proof of employment. So I can't do that just yet because I have to go back to the other two issuers and get those credentials issued. So I will start off with getting a driver's license credential from the DMV customer portal. Now, at this point, I'll have to sign in with my username and password or whatever other authentication that provider might have had available. But for the moment, we'll use the traditional username and password. And this is my customer portal, a bit of basic information about Jessica, where her address information, and some license information in there. Now, to have that also pre-registered with my data here but not shown is an invitation URL that will allow the DMV to connect to my agent and my wallet, Jessica's agent and Jessica's wallet, so that the exchange can be established. So we'll kick off the flow. And in this flow, we're going to establish a connection and then receive a credential, a driver's license credential. So actually, and just in that, so if you saw that on the left-hand side there, the connection was established, and straight away I've got a credential offer for a driver's license, and you can see some of the basic information in there. So I'll click OK on that because this will time out if I don't do it fast enough. So it's flicked over to the credential part of the wallet, and there in my wallet is my driver's license credential, and it's got the basic attribute information about me and my driver's license. Okay. So I'll log out. Now, I'll just step off on the key scenario for a moment and just show that one of the things you can do with a verifiable credential is use it as a form of authentication to log back in using essentially a credential or a passwordless approach. So in this scenario, the DMV is going to use its established connection with my agent and my wallet, and it's going to ask me to complete a proof request. So it's asking me to process a proof. The DMV wants to perform a login using one of the credentials, using the actual driver's license credential, and it's only going to need the customer identifier to do that. So I'll say OK to that, and it'll send the proof request back across to the DMV, and the DMV's verified that and said all good, and has logged me into the back into the portal. But this time didn't have to use my username and password. I was able to use a credential. So that's just a side scenario. If I just go back now to the main scenario, the goal of the main scenario now is I've got my driver's license credential. I now need to get my proof of employment credential. So I'm going to log on to my employee portal, and again, I'm going to use my username and password to log in for to bootstrap this. I want to get to the HR portal. There's an option there to issue a credential, so I'll click on that. And the process is much the same. So here it's delivering the credential to me. I should have connections established. So there's the HR department's connections established with my wallet. And if I go to my pending requests, I now have a offer to accept an employment credential. So the employment credential will have basic information about me, name, social security number, but importantly for the bank, it's got my salary information in there as well. So I'll click accept on that offer, and the credential then has been issued to my wallet. So I now have in my wallet an employment credential and a driver's license credential. And that then should be enough to allow the Big Blue Credit Union to onboard me as a new customer. So let's go back to the Big Blue Credit Union and click sign up. And again, a reminder that I've got the 2 credentials now that it's looking for. Now, what's happening here is I don't have any pre-registered invitation with the Big Blue Credit Union. And essentially what we've got here is a QR code, which is a request to connect, and also a proof request to supply an employment credential and a driver's license credential. So I'm going to scan that with my wallet. So I'll say OK on that. So a connection will now be established, and all of this is flowing via DIDCOM behind the scenes. So the Big Blue Credit Union now has got the connection established, and it's going to ask me to do a proof request. So if I click on pending requests in my wallet, I've got a request to supply a proof to the Big Blue Credit Union, and this one is going to, if I click accept, I get a bit more detail. So this is actually a multi-credential proof request. So the first few here, and I'm not sure if you can quite see it, it's asking for address information from the driver's license, the DMV driver's license credential, date of birth from the driver's license credential, right, and a few more there from the driver's license credential. Then it's asking for first name, last name from the employment credential, as well as the company that I'm employed by and the base salary. So that's a multi-credential proof request. So I'll say yes, and we'll share all that information with the Big Blue Credit Union. That proof request has now been received by the Big Blue Credit Union, and they're in the process now of issuing me a credential offer. So if I go back to pending requests again, I think I've got a timeout here. Let's try this again. I'll just remove that connection. We'll go through that again. Okay, so just do the verification request again. Okay, so because I was talking so much, I timed out in the previous one. This time it's come through. The credential offer has come through, so I'll accept that in my wallet. And there in my wallet now I have the third credential from the Big Blue Credit Union. They've onboarded me and automatically then log me in to my credit union account portal. Okay, so just to show again that with that credential, then I'm actually able to use that as a form of login. So this time I'm going to log back into the Big Blue Credit Union, but I'm going to use a credential to do that. Again, is doing it through an out-of-band QR code. So this is a verification request, and it should be the verification request should be asking me to simply supply something from my Big Blue Credit Union credential. So it's asking me to supply the account number from the Big Blue Credit Union account credential. So I'll agree to that. So the Big Blue Credit Union has verified that proof and then has signed me back into the account portal. And that's the demo. Millen, do you want to take over
thanks,
again?
Dave. Yep. So in that demo, just to summarize what you saw how IBM Security Verify facilitated the ability to expand the use of verifiable credentials in the form of being able to digitize the government credential, the HR credential, as well as provide a typeless or onboarding experience for a user to be able to create an account, and then use a subsequent credential issued by that credit union to log in as a different mechanism. Now, we realize that, based on the use case, different approaches are going to be used. For example, a passkey or a single sign-on federation. But again, our goal is to align and provide the capabilities for organizations to determine what is the best use case based on the experience they want to deliver to their end users through their enterprise, through their organizations across workforce and consumer. Now, with all that being said, I wanted to talk about sort of what's coming and how we're continuing to expand the delivery of, what you just saw Dave demo through IBM Security Verify, and what are some of the things that are happening in the market that we're aligning to and looking to deliver additional capability for. So to date, in the to date column, you basically saw everything that Dave demoed, right? That's in the product today as part of a private preview experience, and I'll get into what that means more here in a little bit. But this is where you're able to deliver and provide the experiences that we just showed. When we get into the next, we're going to expand our support of the decentralized and verifiable, decentralized identity and verifiable credentials use cases to our on-premises solution. So what you saw Dave demo was through our IBM Security Verify SaaS offering. We're actually going to port the capabilities that you saw to be delivered through IBM Security Verify Access, which is our on-prem access management solution. And that's going to be delivered as a container, and you'll be able to support that. The other things that we're going to do from a functionality and tech stack perspective is we're going to support DID Web for trust registry experiences and use cases and resolution. So we're going to support DID Web in that context. We're going to expand our credential types and stack. So we're going to support the MDL 18013-5 specification, as well as support for what we're seeing, market traction and related to OpenID for verifiable credential issuance. And that's something that we're going to be looking to support as well. Working with customers, of course, there's needs for offline cases. So if you're not connected to the internet, how do you still exchange a credential? And then we're going to enhance some of our SDK capabilities to align to the use cases that you've seen here, as well as the capabilities that we support. And then if we get into the future focus, again, continue to enhance the credential stack and types, so support OpenID for verifiable presentation, support SDJOT as sort of a credential type, and then expand the capabilities of how verifiable credentials can be used in the context of Verify. So what I mean by that is we have a flow designer and orchestration engine in Verify. A lot of these capabilities are going to be infused into that. So you can do a use case like have someone go through an ID proofing flow, which is taking a picture of their self, their document, physical document, going through a proofing process, and the output of that being a verifiable credential that could be used in interactions. And then we're also going to provide native controls for how verifiable credentials can be used, for example, at runtime operations, as Dave showed, right, logging in, for example. So we do have a set of experiences that we're looking to deliver. We have experiences that we have delivered to date. And again, this is just aligning to where we're seeing some of the customers that we work with driving us as we build out this capability in a market that's really still, I would say, emerging, but is starting to get a lot of traction in terms of interest, as well as starting to use for protection type of use cases, to also see how digital identity in general could be modernized and enhanced. So with that, before we close, I just want us to talk about the private preview, and then we'll get into some questions that we can answer. So today, as I mentioned, the decentralized identity verifiable credentials capability that Dave showed is in private preview. This means that we're working with up to 10 customers. Today, we've already onboarded 2, so we have 8 spots. The way that you can get access to this is spinning up a free trial. So go to ibm.com/verify or scan the QR code. And then just send an email to me indicating your interest in the decentralized identity private preview. And then we'll have a conversation, understand use cases, and then we can get it set up. And really, with the free trial, you'll be able to explore these use cases. The only ask is, giving us feedback and working with us as we continue to iterate on the capability and the experiences. So with that, actually, we have 2 questions. And since we have time, maybe we can answer them live. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just looking at them. I don't quite. The first question I have there is that would request an agent at all endpoints, including the issues. I don't understand that question. It might have been while I was talking. If that can be maybe restated, I can have another crack at it. There's a second one there asking about an opinion on DIDCOM as opposed to other messaging protocols. I guess there's depends who you ask, doesn't it? DIDCOM, I think, was probably one of the first messaging protocols or credential exchange protocols, in the market there a couple of years ago. I'd say that I guess I see a lot of advantages to it, in that it's can be used for credential exchange, but I actually see it evolving into a messaging protocol that we can layer on top much more in terms of higher order transactions. So not just limited to credential exchange, but using it as a way to bootstrap a secure connection for all sorts of interactions that can occur. So I can imagine a layered approach to an interaction where it might start off with a credential exchange and then you step up into a payment or some other kind of interaction that you have with people in that you would have today, right? But in an electronic format. I guess the disadvantages are that it's a bit of a learning curve, and with that flexibility, there's some complexity in its implementation. However, I think there are plenty of good open source implementations coming online now that we might see its adoption kick on a bit. Obviously, the main competitor is the OpenID credential exchange protocols, which have are a bridge for existing technology stacks to start adopting this, and but also you've got regulations in the EU that are driving its adoption as well. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. I'll just expand just a little bit, Dave, if you don't mind. Like at the end of the day, I think it all depends on the use case, the goals, the types of experiences you want to deliver, right? And I know we tend to, as technologists, get into the weeds of like, let's do a one-for-one comparison of specific protocols. I think that's necessary, right? Because that allows you to extract out some of the value propositions. But ultimately, I think it's delivered on what is the use case, what is the need, the business need, and what is the value, the outcome that is being delivered, right? And I think if the conversation starts there, I think we then are able to clearly determine sort of what is the best approach and sort of what is the best details. This is just to expand on what Dave was saying, because I think what he was saying is right in the context of that. So Dave, I think the question actually, now that I think about it, from the that would request an agent at all endpoints, including the issuers. So I think the question is, does every app or does every entity need an agent? I think the answer there is yes, but you can have an agent that sort of interfaces, it could, right, multiple apps or processes, right? So again, depending on how you want to deploy, depending on how you want to construct it, you can have an organization, for example, IBM or a government, right? They could just have one agent that is shared against all agencies. But again, it all depends on the governance model you want to put into it. I'm not saying governance in the sense of like your traditional lifecycle management. It's more so business governance, right? Like, how do you want to deploy this? How do you want to deploy this? So I think that's where that question's getting at. But if we didn't answer that, please ask it again. And then the last question, and Dave, if you want to take this one, do all parties need to be registered on ISV, or can there be a mixture of different verifiable IDPs?
The answer is there should be able to be a mixture. The key will be, at least what you just saw in that demo there, is the ability to speak DIDCOM for to enable credential exchange. But as we bring on the other standards and OpenID exchange protocols, you're not going to be just limited to ISV. We ought to be able to work with other verifiers and issuers and exchange credentials and different credential formats as an interoperability goal, right? So no, the answer is no, they don't need to be, but the interoperability is something that still has to be validated as the adoption progresses, right?
Okay, cool. No, and thanks for those questions. We've got a few more minutes. Oh, okay, here's another one. Have you seen or doing any use cases using verifiable credentials with e-signatures? Example, Adobe Sign or DocuSign. So we haven't had any, I would say, explicit use cases coming, I guess, from the folks that we've been working with, indicating, using a verifiable credential or a personal credential as a mechanism to sign. I think there's a few things that need to be considered there, such that there's different types of credentials, right? So there's self-attested credentials, which is Dave is attesting himself that he's got these attributes, etc. Milan is attesting to himself that he's got a signature could be that, right? But the question becomes, how has that signature been verified or validated or examined to actually validate that it is Milan's signature presenting that signature and not someone else? So I think it's an interesting question. Just honestly, we haven't had that type of scenario, but I can foresee how something like verifiable credentials, again, understanding the flow of the data, because really what this is about is the flow of the data, which just so happens to be identity related data, and then the attestations that happen along the way, and then what is then the ability to present that, right? So I think it fundamentally boils down to that and understanding that. A good provocative question that has, I think, a lot of ways to answer it, but that's sort of that's how I foresee that. Dave, I don't know if you have additional things or a differing opinion there.
No, I don't have anything to add on that. No, I haven't seen that one discussed or even read about that one specifically. Again, the credentials, what we verify credentials is really an electronic attestation about some claims that the credential describes, and that the credential is bound to the holder and they can prove that, and it was issued by the issuer. But with a bit of thought, I think you could probably figure out a way to achieve something there in that space.
Okay. All right. So we have 10 minutes left. I think the questions have started to slow down. As I mentioned, spin up a trial, send an email out. We can definitely get you enabled. And yeah, Dave and I are both excited about this. We're excited to, help expand how digital identities experience, defined, managed, and really fundamentally, enabling a new set of use cases that previously weren't necessarily achievable at scale. So with that, I think we give some time back. And thanks for joining us here. And for those that enjoy the recording, hopefully you found this also valuable. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone.